everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our webinar. My name is Sarah, and our team is going to be talking to you about the best strategies to make your presentation applicable and impactful. My part of the presentation, I will be discussing how you can define your presentation. A presentation can be thought of in many different scenarios. Most commonly, it refers to a presenter or presenters talking to a group of people, much like a webinar today. However, a team meeting also qualifies as a presentation. It's all about content control. When we talk about content control in a presentation, we are talking about the presenter's level of engagement during the presentation. Depending on the level of control, a presenter can fall into one of two categories: presenting, such as this webinar, or facilitating, such as a team meeting. By determining your desired level of engagement, you can adapt your content accordingly. An easy way to think about content control and engagement is to look at it as a spectrum with 4 levels: tell, sell, consult, and join. As you can see, this webinar would fall under a tell presentation. But why is that? As you can tell by now, during a tell presentation, the presenter focuses on what, why, and how of the information they are sharing. This is possible because the speaker is in complete control of the content he is sharing, which allows for very minimal engagement of the audience. Once the presenter gives up a small amount of control, they slip into a sell presentation. The focus of a sell presentation is to persuade the audience into thinking the way you do. One way a tell presentation can turn into a sell presentation is by including a Q&A session. Beyond that, a presenter can let go of more control and take a more facilitating role in the presentation. This is usually when a presentation turns into a meeting. The lowest level of engagement as a facilitator is a consultant presentation. This is where the speaker focus shifts to seeking information from the audience, like in a team meeting. The last and highest level of engagement is the join presentation. With joint presentations, the presenter focuses on what they need their audience to do. The best example of this is a brainstorming meeting. These presenters have the least amount of control of all the other presentations. By determining your desired level of engagement, you'll be able to adapt your content to meet the purpose and focus of your presentation. Now I'll pass it on to Jennifer to talk about the presentation objectives.
Okay, so Sarah's just given us an overview of general purpose. So as established, we need to understand the general purpose of our presentation in order to understand what type of information to use in our presentation and also how to convey the information. So we need to understand from there our topic, what is it we're going to present about, and then further define things by creating a presentation objective. So these are specific statements outlining what a speaker hopes to achieve. And here are some of the benefits. So for a given topic, you might have all this knowledge and know all these little facts. But due to time constraints, it's probably not reasonable to present every single thing that you know about. And so you should establish a sort of end goal for yourself. By doing that, you can then establish which information is and isn't relevant when it comes to achieving your objectives. Basically, what information should you focus on? What information is going to help you to get your point across and achieve your objective? Presentation objectives are also useful when you're trying to evaluate the success of your presentation. You're giving yourself a sort of rule brick or a sort of criteria against which to evaluate the actual presentation. So did you achieve your objectives? Did you achieve what you wanted to achieve? And what were the areas of strength and weakness for your presentation? So here's a general format for creating presentation objectives. So you should be results oriented. Be specific in terms of what results you're trying to achieve. Also be audience focused. It does not matter whether you're giving an informative, persuasive speech or otherwise, and it does not matter what type of subject matter you're presenting about. You need to be focused on your audience, because ultimately the success of your presentation hinges on your audience. Did you influence them, and were you able to connect with them? And something else is that you need to be very reasonable in terms of your presentation objective. So for example, you might decide to give an informative presentation. But just by giving people informative presentation, they might leave and know more, but that does not necessarily mean that they could actually apply the knowledge which they gained from your presentation. So be very specific and be very reasonable in terms of the objectives that you're trying to achieve. And so this has just been presentation objectives, an overview of what presentation objectives are and how to create one. Now Tristan is going to give us more detail about how to use one in our presentation.
Hi guys, I'm Tristan and I'm going to talk about using the objective as a guide. Using your presentation objective as a guide will help you from the early stages of your presentation to the end when you are concluding your discussion. There are 2 steps in this process, and they are when to write your objective and how to use your objective. The first thing you will have to do is to think about when to write your objective. Draft your presentation objective before you do all your research. Although audience and intent both need to be considered as early as possible, different people like to start in different ways. I personally did not have presentation objective in mind when creating a presentation because I believed that general purpose was the only necessary base of the presentation. Considering the general purpose, I start with an outline, draft the main idea, make bullet points for supporting topics, and then perform a research to further support my claims as if I am writing an essay. More importantly, as you go into this process, you will need to be flexible because you may discover that you will need to modify your presentation objective several times before you determine what you will say. Again, draft your objective early in the process. Many people like to start with audience analysis and then move out to intent, and others prefer to start with their general purpose. Keep in mind that it is just a draft. You can modify your objective as many times as you want. Again, make necessary updates as needed, as situations change, and your presentation objective may need to be changed too. For instance, you may encounter a scenario where you find out that a group of people outside your company will attend your conference, so you can no longer include a highlight confidential information. The second thing you will need to consider is how to use your objective in your talk. As you prepare your presentation, keep your objective in mind throughout the process, from your opening, your highlights, your visual designs, to your closing. This will keep you focused as you prepare and present, and it allows you to determine your success. When you prepare your opening and closing, consider that the first and the last parts of your presentations are likely to be remembered. So make sure that they are connected to your presentation objective in some way. When you decide what to highlight, make sure to use an attention-grabbing technique, because your presentation objective identifies a message that you want the audience to hear. If you don't know what attention-grabbing technique is, it speaks for itself. It is used to attract the audience to look and listen to you. Moreover, when you design your visual aids, highlight what's important on your slides, deck pages and handouts, and the other information that guides you to see it in your objective. One more thing to keep in mind is that to not turn your presentation objective into visual. In other words, don't state it in your slides as it meant to be a focusing tool. Your presentation objective guides you to tweak your talk as you rehearse and present. In other words, you will determine what to cut and emphasize. In the process of rehearsing your speech, you may come across unnecessary information. A clearly defined presentation objective helps you what to details eliminate. Now I'm going to pass it on to Jason to talk about measuring your success.
Awesome. Thanks, Tristan. All right, you've made it this far. So now we're in the home stretch of the presentation. Everything that we've covered so far has helped to kind of guide you on how to build an effective presentation and how to actually use a presentation objective to go through and be able to create what you need to deliver your message effectively. But now we're going to close in on the final piece, which is how do you know that your audience actually walked away with the information you wanted? The reality is you're no longer going to be in college, which means you're not going to get a grade anymore. You're not going to walk away getting feedback from your boss saying, hey, great job, you made an A for sure. It's really unlikely. It's not going to happen. So it's up to you to be able to measure that. And the best way to do it is by actually going in and creating a survey. You fill these out all the time. You're used to it. Every time you call customer service, they expect you to go in and fill out a presentation survey, right? Tell us how they did. That's great. That's wonderful. We love it. Now, same principle, right? But the key here is, in order for it to be effective, you've got to be able to use the key points of your presentation for the survey. And so that's why you want to go back all the way back to the beginning, whenever you were writing your objective and you were writing out actually what you wanted your audience to walk away from, right? So this is where think, feel, and do. What did you want them to walk away from this meeting, from actually spending the time to watch the presentation with you, right? Did they need to think about something? Were they supposed to go in and think about knowledge? Were they supposed to go in and think about opinions, right? Were they supposed to feel attitudes, emotions, or were they supposed to do something, either mental activities or physical actions? Now, the key thing you want to remember here is you have to break away from the traditional, did you like it? Did you like it is an emotion-based response. It's going to be like, yeah, sure, whatever. No, loved it, hated it. It's an emotion. You can't quantify an emotion. And anything you do in the corporate world, you've got to be able to quantify. So that's why even if you ask, did you enjoy the presentation or did you enjoy the material as it was presented to you, you've got to be able to follow it up with something factual, something that you can measure. And you're going to see that even in this middle section here when we talk about feelings. What were your attitudes on our path forward? Do you feel that you can be a champion of the company as we move forward with it? Do you feel empowered? Those are going to be yes, no questions. That you can measure if you use the right data analytics behind it. But the majority of what you're going to be doing in a business world is going to be either think or do. It's going to be focused more on actually driving change. And it can be done in a couple of ways. Even though you've got knowledge on being able to recall a couple of things or being able to compare old ways versus new ways, I promise you the majority of what we're dealing with here is do. You want to be able to take a strategic approach on moving forward. You want to be able to say, this is the new product that's going to launch. This is going to be how we're going to implement cost-saving ideas. It's all going to come down to that. This is how you actually measure your effectiveness. Data is extremely powerful. You can do a lot of things with it. So pick your format. And what I mean by that is, how do you deliver this survey? I can give you the best advice I've ever learned from working in the corporate world. Do not, under any circumstances, do paper and pen surveys. Nobody's got time for that. I promise you. You've got technology. Use it. Oftentimes, SurveyMonkey is the easiest, fastest way to get it done. Plus, it's free. Okay? You're able to build and quantify it yourself and break it out as you want. Limit your questions. Now, this is important as well because you do not want anybody to feel like they have to spend 25 minutes filling out a 50-question survey. You hate it, I hate it, we all hate it. No one's got time for that. So you want to be able to limit it to 3 to 5 questions. So you want to be strategic in how you offer them and be able to make sure that you're asking exactly what you want to be able to do to pivot it out later for your data. That's why I talk about point 3, be specific. Do not ask generalized questions because whenever you actually present your results, you've got to be able to make an assumption off of it. You've got to be able to use that to improve how you build the next presentation. So here's your chance. I actually built a survey for you guys. You can either use the SurveyMonkey link in your browser or you can scan the QR code. Little hint there, that's the easiest, fastest way to do it. You can build a QR code for free, link in the SurveyMonkey link, and go from there. Our survey is going to be about our presentation. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us if you're ready for this semester to be over. Tell us which one of us you like the best. More importantly, just fill it out. It takes a couple of seconds. You'll be done in no time. And this will kind of give you a real world application for what they look like and just how easy they are to create. All right, I think that's it. You've got everything you need to look forward to. I hope you guys have a wonderful semester. And for some of you, I'll be seeing you in the real world. Take care.